Hi, I'm Laksh.
Hi, I'm Maggie.
And welcome back to our channel. Today we're here to talk about one trait you really need in your life to feel fulfilled. You know, you can take on challenges in your work, in your relationship. You can even get to where you think you want to be. But without this trait, it can still feel empty. It can still feel hollow. And that trait, any guesses, is honesty. And honesty that starts from within, with myself, not with other people, but with me. This is one of the most important traits we need in life, because half the time people don't even confront what's going on internally in here. It is a lot easier to face life head on without facing what's going on in your mind and your heart. What do you think? Was there a time you feel like you weren't honest with yourself?
Yeah, many times, but that's when you learn from them the most. So yeah, like we'll start with being spiritually in good habits, right? Because we all know physical habits,
True.
Right? Like eating, we all know, oh, we need to go to the gym, this, that, the other, video gaming, Facebook, all these things, right? So we all know physically we need to have good habits, but do you know spiritually those habits that you need to have a fulfilled life?
Yeah, being honest is on the top of the priority list, because if you're not honest with yourself, if you don't really take a step and take a deeper look at what you really want, you're never going to get it, right? And it makes you really easy to manipulate, not on purpose. People will love you, they'll care about you, but people like your parents, your family members, your aunts, your uncles, your spouse, your kids, if you don't have a true direction in what you want in life, these people will influence you successfully. And you will listen to their advice and maybe end up in a place that you never feel like you belonged in the first place.
You might have bad spiritual habits that way, in the sense of maybe you've never even asked yourself, like, what do I believe in, right? I've always been told X, Y, and Z. Maybe you'll have a habit of just literally hearing someone every Sunday or hearing what your grandma told you from 30 years ago, and over, and you repeat that story. So having a good habit of, okay, you believe that, that's great, but what do I believe? Because you can take, certain habits, certain beliefs from every grandmother you had, your parents, your siblings, take what you like from each and make yourself your own spiritual habits, right? So getting that in check, because if you don't have good spiritual habits, like he was saying, you can be easily manipulated. I always go to Hitler, right? On these things, if you don't ask yourself questions, like how do you think these people ended up in, everyone hated, right? Like blonde hair, blue eye, he wanted blonde hair, blue eyes,
Yep.
Killed. It's just how do you think this happened, right? No one asked, sat back. They were all just brainwashed. And it's ask yourself these questions, because if you don't, in life, you'll look back and be like, what did I do for me? What did I do to grow myself? How did I treat my spiritual being? Maybe physically, yeah, I went to the gym every day. I did exactly what my parents told me to do, but were you fulfilled in life?
True.
Did those spiritual habits fulfill you?
Yeah, I mean, I know people who make $500,000 a year, who make 7 figures, and don't have that fulfillment.
Right.
And they will pour money into things to try to feel that feeling for a moment until it escapes them again. This is a hard conversation. It can be a hard conversation with yourself. It doesn't have to be. But a lot of people will avoid this self-conversation because it makes them feel afraid, fear. Because if I really understand what I want, what if I don't get it? That's a little scary to think about, And it might just be easier to just not think about it at all. But if you go down that route, if you go down that path, 30, 40 years from now, you're going to be looking around your life, and then you're going to have what's called a midlife crisis. And you're going to go buy a very nice car, try to fill that hole,
the void.
And it won't work. So we need
So number 2 is how to basically start being honest with yourself, right? So we know why it's important to have spiritual habits, but how do you start being honest with yourself, right? So number 2 is start asking yourself questions, right? Start digging deep, and it doesn't have to be hard, right? He was saying, don't let the fear take over. Fear is what will get you, like he was saying, in 40, 50 years from now, oh, I never took that risk. I never opened that business. I never went on that second date. That's what you're gonna look back in 50 years and be like, why the heck would I spiritually, suppress how I'm feeling and lack that fulfillment in life when it's so easy just to be honest with yourself. No, I deserve that second date. Because if you truly meditate, you truly ask yourself these questions, your soul will give you the answer. Like it'll just, eat at you so much until you're like, no, I'm taking that risk. Like enough is enough. Like I'm going to go after that, business I've always dreamed of. But ask yourself these questions. Who do I want to be in 30 years, right? Like, once again, what are my spiritual habits? What do I believe? Not what everyone told me, right? Like, get a journal out and write down, these questions and answer them. And you might be surprised with the answers.
Like sometimes if it's hard for you to understand what you really want, for some people it is, because if you have that habit in your mind that you don't even think about it, it's a whole different world of thinking about what you really want. Start by understanding what you don't want. If you've ever done multiple choice, you first cross out the stuff, that's not it for sure. Start writing it down and crossing out the stuff that doesn't work. Look at other people's stories, watch documentaries, and that'll tell you, I like how this person's life turned out. I want to model my life after them. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, observing will get you very far. You don't have to learn those lessons yourself, watch them through others, right? And so observation, but that all goes back to honesty, because if you observe that, right, and you can like it, you can appreciate it, but you're not honest with yourself, like, do I deserve that? Ask yourself these questions, like, could I really do that? Get honest, journal, write it down. Like, yes, you can. And I promise you, if you meditated and cleared all that negative thought, cleared what your dad said, what your grandparents said, and actually ask yourself, like, do I deserve it? Could I possibly do this? You will become so authentic that not only will rejection happen, which is a good thing, right? All those things have to fall away first. That 9-to-5 job that you hate, that relationship that is draining you, all those things are going to fall away because you're finally getting honest with yourself and realizing what you truly deserve and what you want in your life. So don't be afraid of the rejection and trauma, right? That's what's going to guide you and make you become more honest. And honesty to me is honestly just being authentic. Like listening to your own inner voice, right? Not that negative self-talk, but the inner voice of like, no, who am I? What do I deserve? What is my value? What is my worth? And then sticking to it, being authentic to that. Don't go on that 3rd or 4th date if the guy is showing you red flags. Don't work that 9-to-5 if every day you come home and you're unfulfilled. Don't do it. Like, actually figure out what you want. Be honest about it. Like, you only work that 9-to-5 because it's security and your parents told you that, we're middle class and this is all that, we're going to be. You don't have a college education. Like, whatever it is, get rid of that belief. What's your belief? Get honest with yourself.
Yeah. I think for me, when it applied is when I went to school, higher education and college. And, my parents always said, be an engineer. You have the skills for it. You'd be a really good engineer. And they come from a place of love. They were not wrong one bit. I could have been a good engineer, but it did not fulfill me one bit. Thank God, after one semester of it, after throwing maybe $10,000 money away, I realized, okay, this isn't it. I tried medicine, the other Indian route. And then I switched to economics after 1 year in college. And my parents at that point came to me and they said, what are you even going to do to make kind of income with this kind of major? Like, how's that even going to work out? But because I got very clear internally, because I was very honest with myself, I just looked them in the eyes and I said, I'll be very successful. You'll see. And I don't know what gave me the courage to say that, because I had nothing to back it up except my own thoughts.
You're not.
But here we are, And then another example, Odin was just walking behind us. He was on this couch over here. Talking about honest, that guy always wants food and he always gets it somehow. Always. He's not ashamed about it one bit.
He knows exactly what he wants and he goes after it. Very, very honest with you. He'll yell at you. He will. He really will. But how I found, I guess you can say, my truth, my honesty, me being authentic to myself was, I was actually previously married for 5 years. And long story short, I realized that I grew up in a home that, and same as his parents, they're very loving, they care. That's the only reason they verbalized this, since I was a child. But divorce is bad, don't ever do it. You stick through it no matter what, yada, yada, yada. And I was so scared, even though I knew I wasn't fulfilled in that relationship, I was so scared to leave because I just thought, well, this is what I believe. This is what I believe, right? Like, you're not supposed to get a divorce. What's society gonna think? What is my parents gonna tell me? Like, I messed up. It just, all these thoughts, right? Because since you were little, you've been told something. And I finally got honest with myself, and I was like, I knew I couldn't live like this the rest of my life. Like, I literally knew it. It wasn't fulfilling. I became a person I didn't want to be. So it took the very opposite contrast of, I know exactly who I am not, to find out who I am and be honest with myself. Like, I know I'm not this, right? So who do I want to be? Like, honestly, who do I want to be? Who do I want to be with? And for the rest of my life. And that made me also see that my self-belief was, I believe divorce sometimes is a good thing. And if I said that when I was, around my parents under the age of 24, they would have absolutely changed my mind about it. They would have told me X, Y, and Z, why it's not a good thing. But now going through it, I can simply see that it was the best thing for not just me, but the other person. Like, if neither of you are fulfilled, why live your life that way, right? And it obviously turned out to be the best thing I ever did. So, like, divorce doesn't have to be bad. Get honest with yourself. Ask yourself, how do I see my life in 30 years? What do I value in myself? Am I worthy enough to have fulfillment, right? Get honest. Like, that is what taught me. Don't let the trauma, like, completely destroy you, and just the self-doubt, like, flip it around. Like, have the contrast teach you how to be honest with yourself.
And just because you guys are watching this video, I know you guys are on the right path. You want to get better, because the easiest thing to do is find your distractions. You'll never have to be honest with yourself.
Right.
Find your video games, find your reality television, this mindless stuff that people just consume, right? That's what majority of people are doing out there. And because they're so busy distracting themselves, they never have to focus on what's going on in here. So to bring this full circle, both places, bring this full circle, give yourself
permission.
Give yourself the permission to understand what you want.
Be honest.
Don't run away. Be
Right.
courageous. Courage is one of the best traits you could also have. And it takes courage to be honest. It takes courage to be listening to this, because you could be listening to a lot nicer things where people are just making you laugh with stupid shit. This ain't that.
I will say, I have to say this. Once I started being authentic to myself, I started vocalizing what I want. Like, even on our first date, right? It's just a simple example, but I had a standard because I was honest with myself. Like, what do I need in a man? How should he treat me? And when I got honest with myself, people started appreciating it on the external. And by the way, the people who didn't were the people who weren't supposed to be in my life, right? Like, if they don't like what I'm saying, then they don't like who I truly am. And that's okay. But you're polarizing in the best way possible when you're authentic. When you're honest, you can be authentic to others as well. And it brings you so much peace, because you don't go home like, oh, I should have said this, or oh, my value for a haircut is this, but I only charged them this because I felt bad. Like, you're just like, if you're truly honest with your value, your worth, you don't feel bad, right? You just are authentic, and it brings peace, truly.
Yeah, this all really goes back to a spiritual journey. Don't live your life trying to attain some kind of consequence, some kind of, like, when I say consequence, I mean some kind of end goal. Base your life around your ethics, your values, honesty, love, transparency, caring, tough love. Base your life around these values, and it'll always come out even better than you could have ever imagined.
Very true.
But when you're attached to that kind of outcome, you're in for a rough life, my friend. Well, let's try to end on a positive note. Be honest, and it's much better. Okay?
Comment down below. Let us know what you think. But yeah, like, subscribe, and share. We appreciate it.
Thank you.